Now, there have been countless unforgettable and mind-blowing moments in video games over the decades. Ever since developers were able to transform sprites and polygons into captivating narratives, creators have continued to find innovative and intriguing ways to tell their stories. Shocking reveals, hard-hitting deaths, and ambiguous endings are all effective ways in which games have succeeded in surprising us. However, nothing makes plots more enthralling than a great twist. So let's take a look at some video game rug pulls that were just absolute brilliance. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 best everything you know is a lie moments in video games. Oh yeah, and also massive spoilers for the following games. Number 10. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, a secret Soviet spy. Though the Call of Duty franchise is best known for its high-octane action and big-budget spectacle, the series isn't all mindless action. Alongside a selection of jaw-dropping moments in Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops, Cold War stands out as being one of the biggest and most unexpected gotcha moments in the entire series. Set in the early 1980s, Cold War sees player character Bell recruited by the CIA as part of a team tasked with eliminating dangerous Soviet spies. Teaming up with fan-favorite characters Woods and Mason, we're told that Bell has known the team for years, serving with leaders Adler and Sims in Vietnam. With the second mission Fractured Jaw framed as a flashback of Bell's time in Vietnam searching for a Russian presence, there's no reason to believe anything is awry. Towards the finale, however, a bombshell revelation reveals that Bell was previously one of Perseus's associates. After being left for dead, the CIA recovered him and subsequently brainwashed him into believing that they were allies. Understanding the truth about the shady practices of the US government, players now have the choice whether to tell Adler where Perseus is or lie, and in one ending, even ambush him. Number 9. Dark Souls. Anor Londo isn't what you think. Throughout the opening hours of Dark Souls, our chosen undead has the pleasure of exploring and repeatedly dying in a selection of environments equally as bleak and decrepit as the last. From the crumbling structures of Undead Burg, the slimy bowels of the depths, and the poison-filled nightmare that is Blighttown, none of these areas can be described as being particularly pleasant. And by the time we reach the end of Sen's fortress and slay the Iron Golem, we've come to accept that there's only more misery and bleakness ahead. And that's when Dark Souls transports us into Anor Londo, a large new area blanketed in welcoming sunlight. And even though this level is by far the most difficult yet, the welcome change of scenery suggests that there's still some hope left for the dying lands of Lordran. However, remember, this is Dark Souls, and nothing joyful is allowed to exist, not even sunshine. After meeting Guinevere, players can now see Anor Londo for what it truly is, as attacking Guinevere will reveal that she and the sunshine are nothing but an illusion. With the magic destroyed, the area is plunged into darkness as the soundtrack becomes more sinister. Anor Londo, it seems, is just as hopeless as everywhere else. Number 8. Braid, the real villain. From the ingenious mind of Jonathan Blower, who'd later go on to create The Witness, Braid is a challenging indie platformer in which the protagonist Tim is on a quest to save the princess from a horrible and evil monster. Presented in a storybook-like style alongside a beautiful soundtrack, Braid's premise is as basic as a plot can get, well, at least at first glance. As the game progresses and Tim unlocks more time-manipulating powers to traverse the progressively harder levels, more is gradually unveiled about the relationship between Tim and the princess. It turns out that they were once close until Tim drove her away because of an unspecified mistake, and it's not until the final level where Braid flips everything on its head. Here the goal is to now catch up with the princess as she flees from who we assume to be the villain, but when we actually do reach her, the game reveals the reality of the situation. It transpires that we'd seen this event in reverse. In actuality, the princess has been running from Tim the entire time and using the traps to slow him down. The truth is that Tim was the villain of the story the entire time. Number 7. The Dark Pictures Anthology, Little Hope, the Bus Driver. The second installment in Supermassive Games is the Dark Pictures Anthology. Little Hope continued the studio's style of atmospheric choose-your-own-adventure horror. This time, the series takes the scares to a small town with witchy secrets. And the horror begins when a bus crash strands a group of college students and their professor in the titular town in the dead of night, with the town being deserted apart from some spooky apparitions and supernatural fog keeping them there. So the group's only option is to find the bus driver who went missing after the crash. What follows is the player making a series of crucial decisions that determine who survives to sunrise and who is brutally killed. And being a lovely homage to schlocky horror, it's only fitting that Little Hope had a monster of a twist right at the end. Because the reason the group couldn't find the bus driver was because Will Poulter's character was the driver the entire time. And in an extra twist, the bus driver was the survivor of the house fire at the start of the game. Everything we've just seen was a hallucination brought on by the driver's traumatic past, with our choices determining if he's able to forgive himself. Number 6. Prey 2017 it's a simulation. Although this reveal happens in the opening of the game, this twist was nevertheless a huge surprise. Beginning in protagonist Morgan Yu's apartment, the start of Arcane Studios' Prey sees Morgan set off for work like it was any other day. They dress, have a look around the spacious home, and make their way to the roof where a helicopter is waiting to take them to their place of work. But the first sign that something isn't right is that Morgan's job consists of performing rudimentary tests like hiding and pressing buttons, and things get weirder when a shape-shifting alien attacks the observing scientist. A cut to black sees Morgan wake up back in their apartment, but this time things take a sinister turn. The friendly engineer who greeted you previously is now dead, and a mysterious caller instructs you to leave the building immediately. Breaking the apartment window is the only means of escape. However, rather than leading outside, it opens into the lab's corridors. Morgan, it turns out, has been on a space station called Talos 1 this entire time and has been used as a guinea pig in an experiment of his own creation. And now, Morgan must find a way to escape this alien-infested place. Number 5. Dead Space, Nicole's True Fate. When it comes to horror characters, none have as harrowing an ordeal as engineer Isaac Clarke from the Dead Space series. And even before he has the pleasure of injecting a terrifyingly large needle into his eyes in the sequel, he has to fight his way through the claustrophobic and necromorph-infested hallways of the Ishimura. When contact with the mining vessel was lost, Isaac is sent as part of a rescue team, and with his girlfriend Nicole still on board the Ishimura, Isaac has a personal connection to the mission. After being stranded on the Ishimura and learning more about the grim fate of the crew and the mysterious artifact known as the Maker, Isaac eventually contacts and reunites with Nicole soon after. Together once again, the pair are set to travel down to the planet to destroy the artifact, but when Isaac arrives, he's told the unnerving truth that Nicole has been dead this entire time, taking her own life in the video message we see Isaac watching at the start of the game. This Nicole that we've been seeing was a hallucination created by the Marker to manipulate Isaac into fulfilling its ghastly bidding. Number 4. Spec Ops The Line, War Trauma. Oh look, it's what culture's favourite child, it's Spec Ops The Line, and yes, we're going to talk about it one more time for those in the back who don't know about it. Now, as Captain Martin Walker, we are on our way to find Conrad, who is basically our version of Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now if it was a video game. And along the way, we witness the horrors the Colonel left in their wake, and is likewise forced to commit morally questionable acts of violence himself. But not long into the campaign, Spec Ops becomes less of a conventional shooter and more of a provocative character study, because when Walker finally arrives where Conrad is holed up, everything changes. It turns out that Conrad has been dead the entire time. The Conrad that Walker had been communicating with up until this point has been a hallucination that he created to take responsibility for his own horrific actions. No matter which ending players choose, Spec Ops The Line is a profound examination of trauma. Number 3. Shadow of the Colossus, the Colossi weren't evil. The plot of Shadow of the Colossus was so simple and perfectly executed that it's likely nobody saw the ending coming. At the start of the game, the protagonist Wanda brings the body of his recently deceased friend Mono to a sacred temple. It's here the disembodied voice of a godlike being called Dormin informs him that it is possible to reclaim her soul if Wanda succeeds in destroying the idols in the temple. To do so, however, Wanda must travel across the lands and defeat gigantic stone beasts, each of which represents one of the idols. But there is, however, a price to pay for these actions. As far as objectives go, Wanda's couldn't be more straightforward, and with the goal of bringing back his loved one, players likewise have no reason to question the morality of his intentions. But slaying each of the Colossi begins to have a physical toll on Wanda, who grows paler and more sicklier as the game progresses. It's only with the death of the final Colossi that players realize that they've actually been deceived. The beasts were preventing the malevolent Dormin from escaping his imprisonment, and you foolishly released him by killing innocent creatures. Number 2. Bioshock, Would You Kindly. In the opening of Bioshock, mute protagonist Jack is in a plane crash and, through sheer coincidence, stumbles upon the underwater city of Rapture. As soon as he sets foot in the city that since fell to ruin, he's contacted by Atlas on a radio, who asks Jack to help rescue his family and eliminate Rapture's sinister patriarch, Andrew Ryan. From here, Atlas is our guiding voice throughout this subterranean dystopia. He's the one who explains how plasmids and Adam work, as well as telling us where to go and what to do next. When we finally make it to Ryan's offices, though, we're greeted by a shocking reveal. Audio logs explain that Jack was a product of an experimentation in which he was programmed to obey any command that followed the phrase, "Would you kindly?" the words Atlas has been politely directing us with throughout the entire game. Moreover, in a second game-changing twist, Atlas was none other than Ryan's rival, Frank Fontaine. Not only does this twist reframe everything we thought we knew about Ryan's authoritarian rule over Rapture, but this plot point also functions as a meta-commentary on player agency. Like Jack, we too blindly just followed Fontaine's commands. And number 1, Silent Hill 2, What James Did. If M. Night Shyamalan has taught us anything, it's that great psychological horrors are made all the better with a tantalizing twist. And one of the most well-known and effective examples of these twists within a video game came towards the end of iconic survival horror Silent Hill 2. Playing as everyman James Sunderland, this unsettling horror sees him travel to the titular town after receiving a letter from his wife asking him to meet them there at a special place. What's especially strange about this, though, is that Mary has been dead for 3 years. As he searches for his wife in the fog-covered town, James encounters monstrous figures and a handful of troubled characters, one of which who eerily looks like his wife. Describing the ensuing events as strange would be, well, an understatement, but things become even wilder and weirder when James eventually discovers a video of him and his wife. Not only does this video confirm that Mary has definitely been deceased all along, but it also reveals that it was James who killed her after being unable to see her suffer with an illness. Everything that James had gone through in this hellish purgatory has been a symbolic, self-inflicted punishment for his own guilt. What a twist.